They all ready for tonight and tomorrow?
Of course. Oh, yeah. And the meetings all week.
I bet.
Can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
When you get old, you have to wear glasses. No, I might, I. When you gonna just put in? I contact you by so yes. And I just threw this in because I don't know if you do overlook it. Go for citizens of citizens. I think that's something that we can look at. But we got it going. We do that. All fuels.
If anybody that needs to do one.
Okay.
The problem is you can't collect. There's no mechanism. They just, that's what right now is a easily
Me. That's a lot of people on Wednesday. Initial.
That might be here on the county capacity or personal capacity?
He might be listening.
I was just curious.
Yeah.
Is it? Okay. I didn't know.
All right. Yeah.
He's so on top of things.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
He took over, Big Spain. Never heard of Big Spain.
Lynn?
Donna was.
It's like hearing something.
That's really awesome. So that took over the payroll supervisor's job in the whole county. And the woman that worked there before, which is Donna, was really very nice. And I said,
It's not a writer.
oh, I think that's Gary.
Yeah,
they seem
Gary
very,
V's like, wait.
council seem very.
Yeah, I went to grade school. Her name was Donna Ryder.
I didn't get up until, I mean, he was here, Donald's been 30 years. And then downstairs, we were like building inspectors. It was like, Gary B.
It was Gary was the only committee.
He
And
worked as a building inspector.
Wow.
Yeah, that he during COVID.
Yes, you did.
Really sick, but he was fine. Yeah. That baby's our bar. You ready?
Yep.
I call the meeting to order at 2:02. Welcome everyone to the February 11th, 2026 meeting of the Newcastle County Fire Service Strategic Planning Committee. My name is Kenny Dunn, co-chairing today, in attendance. We'll call the roll. Stephanie calls the roll. Stephanie,
Kenny Dunn,
here.
Dennis Goda,
Here.
Kevin Wait,
Here.
Danny Burris,
Yes.
Gordon Edwards,
Online.
On the Zoom.
Fran Williams,
Here.
John Adams,
Present.
Dave Del Grande is not here. Bruce.
I'm here briefly,
Oh, did I just hear Dave?
just for like 15 minutes, I'll be here, then I won't be here.
Yeah, I'm going to the dentist. He'd rather go there.
Bruce is here. Joe Day,
Not me.
Lynn Wells.
I'll be
I
there.
think I saw
Yep, I'm here.
Brandon Tool
Here.
and Kevin Knepper.
Here.
All right.
Thank you, Steph. So we sent out the minutes, I think, yesterday, the draft minutes of the previous meeting, which was held on January 28th, 2026 at 2 p.m. Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Anybody have any? Oh, Joe.
Just one correction, on page 2, number 5, the last phrase in A says with applicable credit for system privileges. It should just say with credit for existing square footage.
Yeah, that's that.
Yep, got it.
Everybody understand that change? Anyone else? Questions or corrections of in the minutes from the previous meeting? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion.
So move with correction.
Second. Questions on the motion? All in favor? Motion passed. The minutes are approved. Steph will get them out posted on the committee site. All right, we'll move into number 4 on the agenda, review and prioritization of studies and reports. A, overview the FAST report findings. Steph did send out some of the recommendations I think that Kevin put together, right?
Yeah, I simply cut and pasted them off the document and then, organized them way better than I have organized them.
Okay. Does everyone had a chance to take a look at this document that was sent out? Nobody did, I guess, but okay. All right, we can, yeah, I mean, I reviewed it myself, but are we ready to go through them?
How do you plan on doing that? Are we gonna?
We could go right down the first page, the high priority, the second page, high priority, and then if someone thinks that it needs to move to a different priority, then we could do that. But I do agree at least myself, I do agree with they should be in high, medium and low priority. And thus, if a member of the committee thinks these shouldn't be on the list, then we can debate that. My preliminary look at it, I think everything belongs there, but we can certainly have a debate. Yes, sir.
Sorry, just to add, I agree it should be prioritized high, medium, and low. What about also ease of implementation? High, medium, and low as well?
Does everybody agree
There
with
could be
that?
some,
Implementation.
Implementation of it. Like,
right, some things may require code, state change, state law change, other things we could do ourselves, that type of thing.
Yeah, we can put some footnotes on them.
We should,
Everybody's okay with that? Okay, we'll move right into them. From the first page of high priorities, the role of the county's advanced life support providers. Options include the eventual assumption of ambulance transportation services in the county by the ALS system.
that's an option.
I thought this one was the only one that I didn't believe it was a high priority. Maybe it's a high priority that we make a decision at the beginning. But I believe most companies. I don't see a push for most companies to move to the county-based ambulance transportation. But
Well, I don't disagree with that, but I point out that government is saving millions of dollars, maybe approaching $100 million. Because the fire service has to bill insurance companies in order to operate the service. I point out that, people don't have to pay for their paramedic service. The fire companies respond to 100% of the EMS calls in the county. Paramedics, and this is appropriate. It's appropriate what they respond to. I'm not questioning that. They respond to 52%. They're fully funded. Granted, there is a system between the county and the state in terms of cost sharing. But this is to discuss the role of ALS, and an option is the eventual assumption of ambulance service. I think it has to be taken in context of everything we do as we move forward. Go ahead.
I just put it as a high priority because I felt as though it was an interesting discussion to have in regards to building. Buildings are the crux of our income. Well, not everybody's income, but many companies' income. And I think it ties in with bullet point 1, bullet point 3, where I think that's a large portion of the discussion we need to have about, we talk about funding cars. So that's why I put it as a high priority.
The only question I have, and Kevin and I have not discussed this, is I don't know if number 4 should be number 4, because that's the primary reason, at least in terms of relating it to the Facet's recommendations, that discusses the funding process for the fire service.
And I didn't have these in priority order. In other words, I just put them like,
Right.
no,
it's not,
one is 1A, one is.
Okay, so they're not in there.
If we may figure out what's in that high priority list, and then we can rank those.
yeah, and my point to this was that I know the largest companies rely on this funding for ambulance billing to get by. And by taking that away, you're taking away funding, and then you're also adding cost to the county, so it's almost like a double negative, it was my point. And although there's not a direct cost for paramedics, you certainly pay for the paramedics through your taxes.
Right,
I can add that,
but it's a fraction
Absolutely.
of the cost of the rest of the service.
Yep, the way it is now, it's almost like a user-based system for the BLS side and the train side.
I can add from the county's perspective, and speaking briefly with the county executive about this topic, and speaking to Chief Logan about this topic, the county has no interest.
There we go. Fine.
Yeah.
We got Friday night, Saturday, and Sunday, so.
Not me. What? Who is that?
Whoever BHs.
Who's BH?
40.
No, Corey.
Where's G?
I see him.
Yeah, he's right
Have
here.
people identify themselves.
That's what, yeah, whoever,
Who was that mait that comment, please?
I don't know if they're coming.
I don't think they were commenting, I think they were just,
Talking to somebody else.
didn't realize they were still on mute.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's all.
All right.
The reason just simply is the overall cost to the county initially, and then assuming, I mean, until we get some kind of operational look at things, like how many ambulances we have to field, looking at what the city's dealing with right now.
Well, I don't think,
Major endeavor.
I don't think it's appropriate to push anything off the table at this.
No, I'm not saying it's off the table, I'm just telling you what the opinion is at this point.
Okay, and that's fine. And now that these aren't in priority order, at least we can assign the top priority when we get, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, I was just, again, the main reason I just brought up what I feel is like, the county BLS service as well as the funding for that service and how it ties into ALS service and just the overall EMS system, I think is a high topic that, how we feature that.
Fire service is not taking current position on what I'm about to say. We haven't discussed it because I agree that this is not something that needs to be discussed first. But I can tell you that we are leaning hardly, not that this goes into effect, not that we want the county to take over BLS. That's not at all been discussed. But the disparity in funding is a problem. It's going to be a problem. I mentioned before, I'll mention it here today, and I apologize to Chief Logeman. I don't know if he's on because I haven't had a chance to discuss this with him yet. And that's on me. But we have a recruitment flyer out there that one of the reasons that you should try to become a county paramedic is because, quote, you'll never have to ask for billing information again.
Well,
I was
So
aware of that.
that's a problem. Okay, and not that I have praised our EMS division and I continue to for the quality and especially for their outreach. And their recruiting has been phenomenal. When you look at the numbers over the last few years, I don't think this was I don't think this was a mistake of commission, but it was a mistake of, I don't know what the right word is, it's not omission, but it's a mistake of just not thinking. But the bottom line is that says a lot about realities. And reality is we do have to ask for billing information every time. And every senior citizen we pick up, it seems, is panicked when they get that bill. Because senior citizens in particular worry about paying those bills. So again, I don't know that it's something that we need to have on top of the list. And Kevin obviously didn't do this in specific order. But I think it's something we need to look at. And if not expand it to the billing issues. There's a thing in here about the county or looking at a central billing process. Well, maybe the county could do the billing. And they could receive the funds, but we would then be fully funded. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at this.
Anybody have any other comments on topic number 1? You'll just rank that. Is there any disagreement that this is not a high priority item?
Well, it's high priority, but it's not number one.
Right,
Not
I
number
understand
one.
that. I understand.
I'm sorry.
Oh, it's something on something there. Please come. We talking. What does it mean? I didn't. Search for you planning today.
Where's my guy at?
There, hey there, brother.
Sorry, sir. Yeah, you.
Watch it.
I like that great drink I meant to tell you the other day.
I sent Art in to talk to him.
Sir, how are you? Good to see you. Sir? I'm trying to be helpful. Thank you. You are.
Good seeing you, sir.
I appreciate you guys.
Okay, moving on to number 2, unless anybody has any comments on the first bullet. I won't use the number. The number and type of emergency resources needed to adequately serve the current and future needs of the county and its residents and visitors. This should be informed by a comprehensive deployment analysis to determine which existing fire stations should continue to be operated, where additional may be needed, and which emergency response units should continue to be provided and or staffed. The plan should support the number and location of fire stations, engines, and ambulances that are needed for the operation, as well as specialized response units such as heavy rescues, ladders, boats, and other special units that it needs on a system-wide basis. Comments?
I think it's definitely gotta be looked at. I mean, actually, we have to consider,
Number one.
yeah,
I would think this would be number one on a high priority list. That ought to be number one. Everything else will fall underneath of it.
because we really can't adequately do the others if we don't have that.
Other comments on this one?
Well, I would just see if.
Yeah, see if everybody agrees when we get to the prioritization. Okay. Moving on to the next item, a centralized ambulance and emergency medical service billing provider. The purchasing power of the 21 companies combined into one agreement may yield reduced costs and additional revenue.
I would only suggest we combine that with the top.
I actually thought we should combine it with number 5 too, because it's kind of along the same lines. If you're gonna go with an ambulance billing vendor, then it talks about, area for that.
All of that should be on.
I had that as a note too.
Can we do that? Mr. Chairman,
Absolutely.
does everybody agree?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
3 and 5.
right. So I,
1, 3 and 5.
if you review the ambulance billing information in the fastest report, I'm sure most people have seen that information. You can see there's a variety of vendors. There's a variety of number of times people send out reminders, collections and other things. The thing we did not report was the percentage that the billing companies charge each company, because that's proprietary between the independent fire company and their vendor. Same thing occurred in the other 2 counties. They did not report the percentage. But I think it's logical and probably worthwhile to see, if the county did float an RFP and all the fire companies agreed to go on to that RFP for billing. I didn't really think too much about the county actually processing that, but if fire companies could tag team onto that RFP, that logically the companies that had a higher percentage paying to the company for billing could get a lower rate. I'm not so sure that the smaller companies would be able to reap even a better benefit or not. But overall, it's probably healthy to look at.
Certainly financially, it would benefit the companies, but then the other good part of it is you'd have consistent statistics amongst all the companies. No other billing company is counting things differently, compare apples to apples at that point.
So I think that's all good stuff. It should be part of the discussion on 1, 3 and 5.
1, 3, and 5, yeah.
If I could add, I agree that to me, this is a high priority. Ultimately, you know what's due, you know what your invoices are, but you need someone to consistently work and collect them. And if you could have a centralized collection agency that would handle this, I think that would solve a lot of the problems. And you would all see some benefits coming out of that. And that could be done on its own without other considerations here.
It's gonna be hard to do that. Because every fire company is gonna be billing at a different rate.
Well, yeah, and
And here goes one rate.
and
Yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
We build different rates for school districts, and you just have to build that into the collection agency's invoice process.
Anything else on this topic? We can talk about number 5 a little bit more.
yeah, well, 5
No, I'm sorry, we're on number 4. I actually skipped one. Does everybody need me to read these, or is it okay? I don't know if the people we have to read online, yeah, I didn't think about that, they don't have copies, okay. Any other topics or any discussion on number 3? right, moving to number 4. Implementing the fire or the service fee authorization by House Bill 127. In the near term, the county should implement the service fee authorized by Delaware General Assembly 2023-2024 House Bill 127. The revenue generated by this fee should be distributed to the fire companies based on the location of the property where the fee is assessed. This new revenue source should not supplant or replace the current source of revenue from the state of Delaware or Newcastle County. Provision of these additional funds to the fire company should be made in support of the strategic strategic plan suggested above. These funds and existing financial resources should provide movement towards the shared future and vision in the plan. The amount of this fee should be reflective of the cost of providing emergency response services to the county residents, businesses, and visitors. The imposition of this fee may have an impact on the ability of the fire companies to generate revenue through voluntary donations. To support the system goals that will be detailed in the strategic plan, these funds should be accompanied with controls on their use and their use of existing funding sources. That is a mouthful.
I would argue this should be number 2.
I agree.
And as we discussed number 2, in the near term, Facets did not define what that meant to them. We believe that we've addressed that with our budget request this year. Just not addressing it through House Bill 127. Implementation of that fee, but we have addressed it in our budget presentation this year in terms of near-term revenue. And Mr. Co-Chairman, this is an opportunity for me to say that what you're aware of, our leadership committee met last week, and we decided that out of that $37.8 million total expended payroll and benefit costs for all 21 fire companies in 2025 calendar year, that we were requesting a 10% appropriation of that fund. So $3,780,000 in this year's budget. And as you know, we presented that budget to the county executive and some of the staff just the other day. So again, you said it, this is a mouthful, but I think this is the closest thing in the recommendations that I saw that addresses our goal, permanent, consistent, adequate funding process for us to discuss this.
I would agree with this number 2. The only thing that I'll say is that I think is important too, is that we need to understand before this gets implemented how it affects our other funds. Is the state going to then say, well, we gave you this ability, you're not getting grant and aid anymore? Is the county, what other funds are going to be affected or removed? You know what I mean? Because it's easy to say, hey, we're going to do this, and then somebody comes in and takes the other funds that we have, but that we're getting now away, whether it's a ticket fund or a permit fund, whatever it is. We just need to be clear on how this is going to affect our other funding.
And Joe, that's a good point. We also reported at the last meeting that our group, the leadership committee, is meeting with the executives of the DDFA to start down that road, because we have to prepare for the fact that the state of Delaware has to step up with some more money too. And if before everybody mentions ambulance fees or ambulance call fees and speed tickets, red light tickets, or the insurance money, none of that is operating funds from Newcastle County, and it's something that we have to address. So you're right, this will all come into play with that.
So, when we set a schedule of when we're going to be going deep dives into each one of these, then we're going to have to also see what information we're going to need to be able to do that.
Mhm.
Steph and I can break out the donations, that each fire company has got from the fastest report. I think that would be interesting to a lot of people. We've already supplied the number of structures in each fire district. We'll have to revisit that list again. But I don't think we should delve into these topics deeply today.
Yeah.
But we're gonna have to dissect the recommendation
Not at all.
and what we finally come up with.
And I'll be blunt with everyone. We're not even, we may think, and we haven't taken a position on this, an official position. We may think House Bill 127, the fee that's authorized by that is the best way to go at some point. But at this point, we're not even concerned about how it happens. Okay, we're concerned about, in general, that we set up a process, and if this is the way that it's decided to go, that's fine. But as Joe just said, there's so many other things that we have to look at.
The reason I'm gonna say this is gonna have to be hashed out in the next few months, I would think. Did Dave drop off?
Yes.
Yes.
Poor guy. Dennis office.
Oh, I'm here.
I'm
here.
Just, I'm gonna echo some of your comments.
It's halfway here.
I wanted to echo some of your comments earlier, Dave, about a time frame to implement something like this, especially with the change in the billing system. And the need to get an ordinance to county council. So that, and get that.
On what? An ordinance for what?
To implement a fee.
I don't think we're anywhere near that.
No, what I'm saying is, as a priority item, this can't be pushed back. It has to be one of the first things.
Number two.
Yeah.
Number two.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Frankly, it becomes number one if the study is approved, because it's going to take a while to get the study. done.
Yeah, but I understand it's gonna take months for sure. But it is gonna take a big lift of our finance department, our assessment folks, county council, et cetera, for this. This is a whole new.
If we focus on a fire tax, the first thing we need to focus on is what the county and we can come together on that is going to be the limit of what their funding will be. Then we can talk about the best way to enact it. But
Well, then we could revisit this when we see what the time frame of the report is. But if there's even a thought of implementing this for July of 27 tax bill, we'd be under a tight time frame.
well,
July
Dave?
27 is impossible.
Oh, all right.
well, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay, it's going to
That's why
require, I totally trust you on that. You're the expert on that. But I just think we ought to wait until we can discuss it in more detail and understand that.
Yeah.
And that is, again, I don't think anybody should tie this to House Bill 127 authorization. Our focus has to be on funding the fire service in an appropriate manner. And then we can talk about how we do it. Because you guys are going to have a lot to say, because if you don't have the money that we eventually agree to, you're going to have to generate it somehow. But that should not slow down our discussion at all.
No, I never said that. The, right now,
And it also, I'm sorry, but it also brings up the need for some interim funds. Because if we can't generate the funds by July 27, we're way out. We were, and I know that Dave wasn't addressing the implementation of 127 when he said this, but he said that in order to do anything for FY 28, we needed to be done by January 31st, 2027. I don't think we should in any way delay something because we can't implement it into our system in July 27. We're now going out a year and a half. And we need to resolve we're not going to resolve it in 6 months. We have until January 31st of 2027 to talk about it. But when we're talking about mechanics of putting it in place, and we're saying July 27 isn't possible because it would be impossible to do Bill 127. Okay. You think we're going to sit back and say, okay, well, we won't take any additional funding until then because we just got to wait. Now, we may end up saying, you're right. but we have to have more discussion about it.
I agree. Just for the folks here that don't understand where the money that's going to the fire service right now comes out of the general operating budget. So the thought process was if we moved it to a fee line, a separate fire fee line, that would come right out of the operating budget, but obviously you would start, since the recommendation is to not to supplant any of that money, you would obviously start at that level that you're already at. You know, you're not gonna, if you move it from the general operating budget line down to a separate line, then obviously the minimum would be to collect is what is already being collected. Right, yeah. That's our initial thought on that. It's just move it from one line down to the other. But who knows, and I understand Dennis, this is a very preliminary, who knows what the fee could be, how it's gonna be set, and all those things that have to be ironed out.
Yeah, because we gotta talk about it.
But yeah, but but it's a big lift. All right, moving on, number 5. Good.
Lynn hasn't,
Oh, Lynn, I'm sorry.
she just typed, is there a calendar year or fiscal year 2026 consolidated budget available? Additionally, does it include the source of the funding?
Yes, we have that information.
The FY 26 budget from the county includes what we used to call grant and aid and the special ops, but it doesn't include the 3 million because that came out of a contingency fund that wasn't in the budget. So if you'd have to give her that.
Yeah, we have to give it, yeah, we give the separate ordinances. Yeah, tell her to supply whatever she needs.
Thank you.
Anything else on this item? All right, we're on to the next one. Pursue negotiating a set of criteria with an ambulance billing vendor that requires 5 notifications after the original bill if the account is still delinquent, for example. Payment plans should also be pursued. Due to the prohibitive nature of Medicare and Medicaid reimbursement structures and how that significantly increases bad debt, fire companies should ensure that their ambulance billing vendor is being as aggressive as possible for at least 365 days to collect payments on any given account before it writes off its uncollectibles. It is also post more budget fiscal information on the company's website, charts, graphical displays to remind the community of the organization's services and corresponding needs. It also suggests the fire companies require that ambulance billing vendors present bad debt lists for approval to be written off.
We've already combined this with the other
Right.
two. Now, are we gonna make that a particular number now?
Make that number 3.
The 3 of them, number 3?
We only have one left.
1.5. Into number 3? Everybody agree?
You're asking priority or you're asking? Not sure what you're asking.
Yeah, priority.
Yeah, they would be 1, 2, and then. Kenny,
Just,
everybody okay with that?
well, why don't we go through the last one and then we'll clarify the number. Now, I agree with combining for sure. But we'll make sure everyone is on board. Any other thing on this one besides that we're going to combine it? Moving on, pursue additional contributions from the city or town government that the fire company is located in and ensure that the fire company leadership maintains relationships with its government's budget and executive staff.
I really don't disagree that that's a priority, but I don't know if it's a priority for this committee to be able to do that. That's just my thought.
How many towns is there in Newcastle that actually tax their residents?
Delaware, Townsend.
Yeah.
Middletown,
Odessa.
Odessa, Delaware City, Newcastle, Bellefonte, Ellesmere, Newport, Newark.
Newark. Dave, does the villages of Arden levy a tax on their folks?
I think Arden just makes a donation, if I remember right, like a small amount. So I'm not sure exactly what size credit they get for that. But just keep in mind, as we increase the dollar we give as a county to the fire service, the local municipalities need to keep up with that pace, or they'll lose part of their credit and they'll be taxed accordingly on that.
Well, I base my feelings on this with the town that I'm from. And they've never given more than $10,000 in 1 year to their fire company, and that's the town of Ellesmere. They've done it twice in 56 years that I'm aware of. So while I agree with Joe in one part, this is something I think our committee has to review, and it probably will require action by the legislature. One of those issues we're going to need to address with the legislature. And how it comes out, whether it's exactly like this, I don't know. But these municipalities should pay their fair share. And that is a position that we've taken.
So if I might add to that, the general operating budget tax is levied on every parcel owner in the county. Mine is the local service functions that they provide. There's a, we call it the local service function list. So Dave, how long ago was the, that committee formed over the fire service, local service fee?
That committee it's probably 4 years old, maybe a little bit older than that.
4 years old. So if the town or municipality contributes to their fire company and shows that to our finance department, then they receive a credit on the general operating budget amount. And those are set when, December, Dave?
Yeah, about that time. I think they're due before that, but yeah, basically December.
So there's a pick list that, of county services that the municipalities can choose from. Fire service is now in there, and if there's a certain contribution from that town, it can be completely exempt from the general operating budget fire fee or fire taxable amount. Wilmington has been exempted for ever and ever and ever, but now we have, I think, Newark and Middletown, right, Dave?
Yeah, Newark has been forever also. I think Middletown was just given a full exemption in the last few years, and there may be a couple others that had their exemptions increased also due to their contributions.
It all depends on the contribution from that municipality to the fire company.
Is there a minimum contribution they have to make? Or a maximum? They could make
There's a formula that this committee came up with.
Okay.
When Dave's here, maybe we could put it on an agenda.
So
He
for
can
example,
explain that.
a few weeks ago, we discussed permit fees. Newark does permit fees and Aetna gets a substantial amount of money from that.
Mhm.
Is that included in their contribution or is it just from taxes?
It's included in the contribution for Newark, I know.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that Dave, is the utilities included in that contribution also?
Yes.
Yeah.
In kind counts also.
Dave was CFO in Newark for a
Okay.
while,
So that's why we need to talk about it.
Yes,
All that may need to be looked at.
it is gonna have to be looked at. I totally agree with you, Dennis. It has to be looked at. Because no longer is a single municipality being served by that municipality. Fire company is based in that municipality. Yes, for, ambulance service, maybe if the ambulance is there, but there's also backup ambulances coming in. But they're for fire duty alone. The only municipality I know of is independently operating is Wilmington.
Well,
Well, I know you were gonna say that, but they are drawing more county services than ever before.
and it's
But it is,
not a bad thing.
but it's, I just think this is gonna be a higher priority item than if we believe. Because it has to be, municipalities have to, take some ownership, is my opinion, and I have the same exact thought process that Dennis has, about one particular town. Any other comments on this?
I would say it's number 4 of the high priority group.
All right, we wanna, does anyone know of anything in the medium or low priority they believe should be in the high priority list? Anybody see anything?
The one thing I'll say, and we need to go through and decide, but some of these will naturally come up as we discuss the higher priorities. For example, future purchases for a standardized approach. Requirements that the county may want to put on the companies to, for lack of a better word that I can't think of, compensate for the additional funding more accountability that the county may be interested in. Some of them will come up in some of the numbers that we just discussed, reserve apparatus. I'm not suggesting we don't go through and prioritize them, but they're gonna come up automatically.
And we can always add, I guess, we discover something, we can always add it to the high priority list. All right, so if nobody has any objection, then we'll rank the high priorities. Number one is,
Paragraph number 2.
okay. Deputy,
I got it.
no, any objection to that whatsoever?
No.
Anybody online from the committee? Okay, number 2 on the high priority list.
4th paragraph.
I'll scroll 1 second.
Anybody have any other thought about number 2? Being the 4th bulleted item for the paragraph. Number 3,
Paragraphs 1, 3, and 5.
paragraphs 1, 3, and 5 being number 3 on the priority list of high priority. Anybody online for the committee? Questions, comments, concerns? Okay, and number 4, I think we have one left, right?
Yeah.
6. Last.
The last one.
I would reiterate, I mean, I think number 4 is, it maybe it's a priority, but I certainly don't think it's in the level of high priority, but I'll just state my opinion.
So I think, Joe, I think this number 4 is certainly going to play into when we get into an in-depth discussion of the fire fee.
Well, I certainly think it, when you get to the fire tax, you know what I mean? It does affect that, but everybody's gonna get the fire tax, whether you're in a town or not.
Yeah, but it could be a different level. It could be a different level. So that's why that's going to be probably together, but okay.
Number 6, and I'm bringing this up because Dennis kind of mentioned about Newark, but like the VA hospital is supposed to give Ellesmere money, or
No,
they're not supposed to
No.
give?
no, we've pursued funding from there probably for the last 30 years.
I know you have, but, and it's gotten nowhere.
0.
Um,
And they're exempt.
They're tax exempt.
They're exempt.
federal, but somebody told me that there's, because they don't have their own fire service.
At one time, that was the only VA hospital in the country that wasn't protected by a career fire department.
Municipal.
Um, but that's the only distinguishing characteristic.
And then, like the University of Delaware, I think gives Aetna like $150,000 a year.
But they're also tax exempt.
To my knowledge, I could be off. I think President Cedar, who just stepped down this year, was saying that they were working on a fee per student. And most universities had a fee per student, but I don't know where that is.
Yeah,
If that was-
payment in lieu of taxes.
That did pass.
It did pass. I don't know if we're charging students for it.
Well, that passed for Newark City government. It didn't pass for the fire department.
But I believe that it was, in the description of it, in the debate over it, was that it was to include helping the local fire department.
Dan just said not our money,
What do you say?
not our money.
Not our money? Okay. Because prior to that, the, I don't know exactly what municipalities were getting money, but I definitely Dover and Newark were getting supplemental funding from the state to cover for those costs of policing and protecting those universities. Prior to
Yeah, that's where we're gonna have to look at all that stuff at some point.
Right, like the word tax versus fee versus payment in lieu of taxes, right?
Right.
Okay.
And that there is another law that in state law that gives the county seats, Dover, Georgetown, and Wilmington, additional funding to protect the state-owned buildings within those municipalities. But nobody else gets anything for their state-owned buildings.
There's a comment, Dan.
$5,000 annually from UD. City may have received other money, but not it.
Thanks, Dan.
Thanks, Dan.
I knew he was done. Is everybody ready to move into medium?
Absolutely.
Or the blue color? The ownership of existing and future BLS resources such as ambulance, fire apparatus, equipment, and facilities. Would that be encompassed in the operational study?
I was in that study. You made that argument.
Yeah.
There's a lot of these that are fall into that.
Bullet point 2 fall in that category as well.
Yeah.
I'm just reading it.
Study.
If I'm combining it with the high priority number 1, that would, I'm just saying, I think it would fall in that category when you're discussing those matters. It would kind of go into that study.
Do you recommend that? That we combine them with number 1?
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
So anybody on the committee online have comments on bullet 1 and 2 be combined into the study? Anybody here in the room? Okay, bullet number 3. Oh, well, I didn't read number 2, did I? The availability of the county reserve engine and ambulance apparatus that can be used as needed by fire companies for short-term replacement of company vehicles or out of service for maintenance or repair. The county should assess a daily fee for the use of these vehicles. Availability of these shared reserve resources can relieve the need for each company to be self-sufficient in terms of vehicles. Moving on to number 3, is that okay?
Yes.
Bullet number 3, medium priority. Seek a change to law or regulation that allows fire companies to merge without negative consequences to the amount of funding received from the state of Delaware. Currently, some funds are divided equally among the company's fire companies, and 2 or more companies that merge or consolidate would likely see a net loss in revenue from this source.
So it's a state legislative function, but I do think it's something that we need to include in our discussions. Where we put it, I don't know. I don't know that this is something that's standalone. It probably could go into, I think it go into number 2 in the high priority list. And correct me if I'm wrong, anyone. I don't think we have the authority to just disregard any of these. Because the EO says we have to address all the recommendations in the passage.
100% correct. The only thing I might add to this one, they're only addressing the state of Delaware funding. So there is Newcastle County companies or funding that if companies merge, what would happen with that? So I just did a little research, not a deep dive into that. And if there was 20 companies and the money was allotted, it would just be divided up equally amongst those companies. So it's almost the same formula as this. So there would probably need to be some type of ordinance floated and for the county monies also. That would include the permit money, impact fee money, and the we'll just call appropriations for now. Appropriations.
So do we agree to merge it with number 2?
I agree.
Study or something.
And with this,
Wait.
no, number 2. Priority 1 is the study.
Yeah,
This is number 2, the funding.
state hospital 127.
Yeah.
There is a piece of legislation already being kind of discussed at like all right now on this. But it's only earmarked for insurance funds, not on anything else. Moving on to the next bulleted item, number 4, or not numbered, but 4th in the line there. A requirement for approval of major capital expenses regardless of the funding source by the county. This will assure that major expenses such as fire station improvement projects and apparatus purchases comport with and support the strategic plan.
I think it goes way down, so.
Say that again.
Well, either that,
Down myself, way down, even on low priority.
either that or we combine it, because I also think that's gonna come up in number two. So number two is where all the funding discussions are gonna occur. We might as well, and again, this is just my opinion, we might as well combine those that we can as long as we address them all. And we try to put as much about funding into one basket. That's just my feeling. I don't disagree that it's not a high priority, Andy, I agree, but just where we would discuss it.
While we're talking, my friend.
If I may add, right now, we're talking about independent corporations making their decisions on purchases. So, this is gonna be a big hill to climb.
It's gonna be what?
A big hill to climb.
It is.
Yeah. And I really think until the, if I can say this bluntly, until the funding source is in place somehow, I think we're overstepping where that comes in at. You know what I mean? No,
Yeah, I mean, the amount of funding will factor into this, or what the funding
but
is
until that gets
designated for.
right.
But we still have to discuss it. We're required to discuss it. We might as well throw it in. I just think we should throw it into funding discussion and
Is there an objection to moving it into the funding discussion in the high priority list? Anybody on the committee online? Okay, we'll move it to that. Jeff, you have that?
So it's going to what number?
two.
Move it to number 2 on the high priority list.
This will be a test at the end, of it, right?
Two is going to be a whole page.
The last bullet item on the meeting priority page, a requirement that future equipment purchases to support a standardized approach. For example, fire companies in Newcastle County currently utilize more than one brand type of self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA. These units are not fully compatible. Future SCBA purchase should move forward a standardized brand or type. It's quiet as I've heard the group yet.
It's in the weeds, so it's a priority, and you can save a bunch of money. The challenge with it is timing. Everybody's bought their SCBA at different times, so everybody comes due and expire at different times.
Do we have any idea of, I mean, obviously Facet put this in here, so they must have surveyed what they are, but do we have any idea
No.
how many different ones there are?
Well, but I also
I
don't
would say three.
Yeah, but I also don't think that Facet's meant to limit this to SCBA purchase.
Hose is another one.
Okay, you got hose, you got turnout gear.
Yes.
You got,
Trucks.
I mean, there's a lot, ladders, there's a lot of stuff. And we shouldn't limit it to SCBA. It is in the weeds. There are a lot of ways to make a transition, you know, however, if this remains an item and make it into the final report, there would have to be a transition, you know, if 5 Points just bought all new SCBA, we can't expect them without getting paid for it. We can't expect them to buy all new ones. So by this date, this company has to transition, you know, the next time they purchase or whatever. Those things can be worked out, but I guess the question is, where does this go in our discussion?
There is one about grant writing in low priorities, maybe there's a grant writing,
So,
but specifically AFG is. SCBA is a thing that AFG,
well,
get a lot of AFG grants.
again, we're not just talking about SCBA. They use that as an example. So there's going to be, if we can take advantage of it, we can take advantage of it in a lot of ways. And look, our side is going to have issues because there's going to be some companies that say, we're not buying this turnout here. We don't think it's safe. So all those discussions have to take place. But like I said, my thing is, where do we put this? I don't think this is another thing that's going to be just discussed on its own.
Well, I would say in going through all these priorities, including this one, I mean, I don't know what the repercussions are for a company that doesn't buy what you tell them to buy. But in going through these, it almost seems like Faxis is leading you down a hill that there's the county and then there's an overarching group or corporation that controls the funding and the purchasing. I mean, when you go through here and you read about who's going to own the future and fire and BLS resources, I mean, we know the report is going to come out with consolidation and maybe some expansion in some areas, but more consolidation than anything. You know, so you get that report back. I mean, I'm not sure how we go about and say, Middletown, we're shutting your company down or whoever, you know what I mean? But I do think it's obvious in this report that they expect there to be some overarching middleman over the fire companies. And maybe it's county based and maybe it's not, maybe it's corporation based. But with all these things, I don't know how you enforce it without some overarching
Well,
layer in there.
the way you enforce it, not suggesting that any of these things are going to happen. Consolidations, buying the same equipment, but the enforcement is you don't do it, you don't get money. You know, consolidations is going to be a huge issue. I don't know, and Joe, I don't know if we can read that specific into facets. They were pretty specific on their recommendations, and that's where they stopped. I
So
don't,
if we get a report and it says, we suggest you downsize and Mapledale doesn't exist anymore, we say, all right, Mapledale, we're not giving you any more funding.
no,
I mean, you have to react to the report that we're gonna have.
Well,
The right size to
if
county
that's the
equipment.
case,
So how does that work?
if that's the case, then we just gotta have you guys approve every one of these recommendations. Okay, we're not gonna do all of these recommendations, so we're not bound to do every recommendation that comes out. And that's why I keep saying that we can get this done by January 31st, 2027, but our job isn't going to be done because all those things are yet to be worked out. You know, of course, and I'm not saying this for any effect, but let's just assume that the county was responsible to pay for fire and EMS services. And that's not a given at this point. Well, of course, the county could go up to Middletown, knock on the door and say, you don't do fire service anymore. But we're doing it, okay? But they can't take their building and they can't take their apparatus. It's a private corporation, okay? My buddy Danny and I down there disagreed many times on little issues about what we can force private corporations to do. And we probably still disagree on some of it, but one thing I don't is that nobody's going to walk in and say, hey, Franny, we're taking your ladder truck and your engine, we're putting it in a garage down the street because you're not doing business anymore. But I also don't think we should ever recommend that there may be some cases, but in most cases, you don't say, okay, you're done. You're not getting any money because you didn't immediately go out and buy the same kind of gear as everybody else or whatever. And that deployment plan is going to come out with a lot of uncomfortable stuff. But I don't know that that means that we have to, I think our focus has to be on what is best to provide the adequate service to the county.
I don't disagree with your last statement, but when you get a deployment plan that says you don't need 4 stations, we're gonna say, oh, now we have something in writing that the politicians and everybody else is gonna say, we told you you don't need 4 stations, we're not paying for 4 more stations.
So what's your
My point is, I feel like it's the elephant in the room. We might as well talk about it and bring it out. When you look at these priorities, the ownership of existing and future fire and BLS resources such as ambulance, fire apparatus, equipment, and facilities. This is the overarching theme in Bassett's report. And I'm not saying I disagree with it. I'm saying let's be realistic. If we get a report and it says this is what we should do, we're not going to be able to say, oh, sorry, we don't think that's right now. Like we're consolidation and some expansion again. It's probably likelihood.
Why doesn't that apply to this?
Why doesn't it apply? I think this was also all recommendations, right?
Well, that's what it's going to be in that report.
And we're all going to sit here and say, oh, we got 4 extra stations, but we're just
Well,
let it continue.
Are we just going to sit here and say we're not implementing House Bill 127 right now? We are. That's what we're saying. That's what we're saying.
This group will report back to the county executive with our recommendations. What the county executive decides to do from there is yet to be seen. There could be recommendations that are honored, followed, some that may not be. The fastest report was not, you will do this. And say, I'm thinking the same thing comes back with the operational report. There's going to be a lot of back and forth, obviously a lot of back and forth. And a lot of this is going to include county council with ordinances and even probably state legislation. That's good. The work has not even begun yet, I would say, in my opinion.
And all I'm saying is I understand these recommendations. And I think if we're gonna talk about it, we're gonna have the same equipment, we're gonna do the same things, and maybe we should be talking about right off the onset, an overarching hierarchy between the county, government and the fire service.
And-
I'm not disagreeing.
Yeah.
That maybe we shouldn't do that.
And I don't-
think we should do that.
And I don't disagree with you. But I know you understand that we answer ultimately to 21 fire companies. And while we have the authority to make decisions about certain things relative to the budget and some policy issues, we're not at a point where, and we can discuss it. But listen, I've been meeting with each district companies, met with 4 or 5 so far. And we've talked about this deployment plan and that it's going to address some uncomfortable situations. All right. And you know what that means and what we're dealing with there. We have to do that. And we've explained that to them. We don't have a position on any of this yet, but it's got to be discussed. And the more open we are, the better off we are. I couldn't agree with you more. But I couldn't today get these guys together or even get the whole leadership committee together and say, we need to know if we favor consolidations. Got to see the results and we got to go back to those companies.
I'm gonna take a quick break, guys. Sorry, the real boss is calling my mom. So I gotta just check on her.
Oh,
Be right back.
How about them Cowboys?
The buy-in you need is from the fire service to buy into
Yes.
this deployment.
Oh, yeah.
No, that's the whole point.
That's the buy-in.
And listen, we've talked to them about that. And we haven't asked them their opinions at this point, but we told them, look, one of the big recommendations is to have this deployment study, and it mentions consolidations, it mentions if any departments don't need to exist anymore, if we need new ones. And we've explained, even if it wasn't in the recommendation in the facets, if the county came in here and said, we want to talk about this, you can't say no. We're here discussing our future funding. And so that has to be something that's on the table.
So Dennis,
I'm sorry, excuse me for interrupting, but I think until the chair comes back, we should probably take the break that he requested.
Can the co-chair take over?
He didn't ask you to, but sure.
No, it's no big deal. No big deal. I'd like to have you around the kitchen table at the firehouse someday.
Or would you?
No. When I start getting beat up on something, I could,
I'll have your back.
I could do this and say, I'm sorry, we can no longer discuss this anymore. I just, I guess that's mine. So go ahead, Director. You were asking.
So if I were to ask you,
I guess.
motion to go back.
give me 3 fire companies to eliminate. Would you give me that?
Our arms in here? Therein lies the problem
That's what it is.
for me.
Okay.
Because I don't know that I could say any. I can tell you that I think it being upfront, it's worthy of discussion in some areas.
So would you base it on cost per service? Would you base it on,
It would be based.
that's what we look at.
Yeah, it would be based on a lot of things. Staffing,
Cost per service.
yeah, now calls for, yes, calls for service is different now
I know.
because everybody goes everywhere else, you know.
But you're the third one to go then.
The problem for me in answering that to you right now, Director, is that it would put me in a very difficult position with the people who we're here for. Because number one, I wouldn't name any companies. Would I tell you there are 3 companies that could disappear that now? There might be 3 companies that could consolidate with other companies and still be very effective in their area. But we don't know that until we get this study done.
I just think it was kind of odd that your first thought was staffing now. I mean, I always think fire station location, you know, I mean, density.
Well, I'll tell you this, if we based it on location, absolutely. Absolutely. However, it's my understanding that a former county, not my understanding, he said it in front of me one night, thought that there were too many firehouses on Kirkwood Highway. And he meant the west side area, 6 fire stations. And there's someone at this table pointed out to me, there are. And if you combine the populations of those 6 companies, they have more population than the city of Wilmington, who has 6 fire stations, right? Our companies are, the location is based on the communities they're in. And in most cases, something that happened in that community at some point that made them decide to have a fire department.
80, 90.
Okay. 100 for most and a couple hundred for others. Okay. But unlike most places around us, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and much of Maryland, Cecil County is a little bit different. Much of Maryland, those governments took responsibility, whether it's a township government, whether it's a fire district where people are elected and they have taxing authority, or where it's a county, especially down around Baltimore and DC, but not just the urban areas, where the county has been in charge forever. And there was never a funding issue. Here in Delaware, the evolution has been, we just took care of ourselves. And we really didn't get any government money until the late 60s, early 70s. And I think the population in 1960 was 200,000 in this county, might have been less. And as we got bigger and more urban and all the other things we talked about, companies have added, quote, substations or second stations. Most of those companies have larger districts. So when they created fire districts in this county, indeed in this state, but we'll talk about the county, they intended to try to make each district a size that would give the companies about the same amount of people in those districts. Now, I don't know that this is a fact, but my understanding is that was to give them equal opportunity for fundraising. So what happened was the districts nearer to the city of Wilmington were smaller. The districts farther away from the city of Wilmington were much larger. Etna, Christiana, Middletown, Odessa, Townsend, Hockessin, and as those companies got busier, many of them did start putting additional stations in place. But the original ones have stayed where they were. But there was no oversight. There was no entity to say, well, we're going to move these firehouses. For example, the Ellesmere Fire Company charter states the firehouse has to be in the town of Ellesmere. And I'm sure that was done because back then you dialed a number and somebody answered it at their house, pushed a button and the siren went off, you know. But it's definitely a topic that needs to be looked at. Good question.
Sorry.
Oh, no, we're fine. I just want to correct one thing. County government in the 1920s was giving $600 to what they called at the time rural companies. We found records of them receiving $600 in the 1920s.
I think you owe us on one or two hundred things.
$600, yeah. And that research to be done. All right, so what about the last bullet item on medium priority? We're gonna, what's the pleasure of the group? Committee.
Hate to say it, I think we combine it with number two. We're going to address each of these individually.
Yeah, put it up there.
Anybody disagree combining with number two? You're talking number two on the medium priority page?
No,
Number two on the high priority.
Yeah.
We already moved that one anyway, right?
We don't have any.
Any mediums now?
You know, mediums down. That's the lowest medium.
Yeah.
Anybody on the committee online have an objection to that? Moving to low priority page, because we're 20 something running out. Low priority page, group agreements for consultation with professional support services, such as accounting and human resources and other services that are needed by every company. I personally, when I look through this list, there's some that can be combined into one bullet. Yeah. Yeah, the next one, group agreements or contract for support services such as vehicle maintenance, equipment maintenance and facility maintenance. That should be with number one on that page, I think.
Yep.
on this page.
Group agreement to make a fire service grant writer available for consultation with the fire. There are a number of grants and alternative funding sources available to the fire service, including the AFG program.
Yeah, and that's, listen, we have many, I don't know, when I say many, there's 21 companies we're talking about. We have a number of companies who have taken to the practice of hiring grant writers. And obviously, this would be a good thing to discuss relative to that, depending on the availability. You know, how many grant writers are we talking about? And how often are they going to be able to assist when there's a deadline? You look at the AFG grant, or what's the other one?
Safer.
Yeah, the AFG or SAFER grant. And I would think we probably have more applications for the AFG grant, but you look at that and you could have 15 companies putting in for the AFG grant. So I get it. A group agreement to make a grant writer available is good, but is that grant writer going to be able to do 15 applications?
Bruce, have we hired a grant writer yet?
We have in-house, yes. And we're currently already in fiscal, already had their training, they've been in the process, so.
I don't know what the availability, we write plenty of grants, especially in public safety. But if anybody's in immediate need, I've mentioned it to Elmer before, director setting that, you know, we could offer some assistance.
Well, and that's, again, as Kevin said, that's in the weeds and we want to discuss that now.
Somebody in the immediacy.
Yeah, but we should discuss it.
I mean, we could combine that with group agreements.
Yeah. Great.
The next item, a more standardized approach to annual financial reporting by the fire companies, more fully described later in this report. The timely submission of these reports will provide a full characterization of the community investment in these services. Right now, I'm sure everybody's familiar with the reporting requirements we had in last year's MOA. We have, at least at this point, no immediate changes in there from the documents we're asking for. I don't know what they were actually thinking about here with documents. I guess at the time they didn't know what documents were being submitted, but I personally think this one is
I think we've already
kind of a constant.
Yeah, we've made changes on our side also.
Yeah,
I think it's already taken care of.
Yes.
I agree.
And obviously, if there's anything that comes up from the county that's needed in a documentation, we would approach the Fire and Ambulance Advisory Board, and the MOA would reflect that, any change.
I think the next one is also been accomplished.
A requirement that the fire companies comply with county standards on the use of these funds. The county may require the submission of an annual or periodic budget request detailing each company's planned use of the funds for review and approval by the county.
Or disapproval.
There, Sussex County, does have a somewhat of a mini check that they do on a smaller number of the fire companies per year. We have yet to even delve into that or explore that. But again, that would be a topic that would come before the Fire and Ambulance Advisory Board, since they deal with the financial aspects.
The county standards on the use of those funds is already determined. It's in the contract. We increased that.
Right. What I was talking about, if there was any additional review or periodic budget
With
requests.
chance of breathing drizzle or snow at higher elevations.
Yeah.
Clearing late with.
Thank you, Wally Canaan, the weatherman.
There's, the Sussex County does require, they randomly pick the companies to say, I want to see your credit card reimbursements, this and that, but we have not went into that yet.
Right. So do we need to discuss this or do we already accomplish it? We submit a budget.
Yeah, at this point, I would say it's accomplished. But if we need more, we'll certainly.
We can bring that.
Keep back.
To me, a lot of these 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 11, and 14 are all kind of fiscal policy issues. Kind of could be lumped into together. I mean, I think they're all trying to achieve the same thing.
Yeah, but if we've already accomplished them.
Yeah, a lot of these we already absolutely big changes. We're doing it. We got highlighted it's you know, what I mean, under a fiscal section and then accomplished,
Yeah.
and then our plan for the next.
The next one, accounting systems and practices, a number of suggestions on specific accounting and auditing procedures were made that will improve the transparency and standardization of the fire company's fiscal practice and records. Again, I think we've accomplished a lot of that.
Yeah.
Right now, the county requires the same requirement that the State Fire Prevention Commission code says, which is not a deep dive audit. I found out that there's different types of audits. Some are very expensive and some are just financial statements.
Yeah.
At this point, we have not changed that recommendation.
I think we also have to look at where Facets was when they made these recommendations. They had just found companies that didn't have budgets. They had found some other issues. So they made these recommendations in that vein and we've actually addressed it.
Yeah, the only thing that I think we discovered everyone submitted everything that was required, which was great. All 21 companies accomplished that. Some of the budget documents are dramatically different than others. And if there was some kind of standardization, so it was easier to read through them, I don't think it would be hard for everybody to accomplish. But there are some people really get in depth with their budgets and their budget lines, and others do not. But they did submit budgets, which was accomplishable. A company should consider publishing a standard or template for financial reporting. The county should, I already did that one, right?
Mm-hmm. It's all part.
Yeah.
It's all part of it.
Did I do this? Did I read that one or not?
No.
Okay. The county should consider making
Contractual agreements.
standard or contractual agreement and a group requirement agreements between the county and the fire companies. A phase in and training period may be desirable. Well, we've already done that. It isn't an agreement.
Yeah.
Post more budget fiscal information on the company's websites, charts, graphical displays to remind the community of the organization's services and corresponding needs. I think that was got each
We can
independent
discuss
company.
that. We can discuss that.
Hold open houses with activities, fire demonstrations, raffles, informational sessions, better to maintain visibility of the community and garner donations.
So my only issue with this is not something that we as a group or the county could require. But it certainly can be more detailed in our final report as to the necessity of it. And you all have heard me say, we are already working on a standard outreach program that we are going to take out to civic groups, not necessarily individual civic organization, but groups. Not to say we wouldn't do it at civic organizations, business associations, to make it more clear. We have found in the last 3 years that Many people have no idea what we do. You gentlemen have heard us say that. And we need to make it more clear to the public what we do and how it's done. So I guess we have to discuss this because I think it's important to at least put in our final report the recommendations that we make on stuff like this.
I think you can't mandate it, but make a recommendation,
Right.
because I know like Delaware City, Odessa, Goodwell, they all do those open houses and they're really good.
They are, Councilman, but one of the things I think we need to do is incorporate somehow, and it's not easy, but incorporate education as to what it is we actually do.
I got you.
You know, you can't get too technical or you lose them. You know, the police department, has a citizens police academy. Because people really, it's not the real thing, but it's as close as they're ever going to get. So we need to do a better job at that.
Yeah, I got you.
Newsletters can be a way to get information out to the public. Fire companies can publish their own newsletter or submit information to municipalities or counties respective newsletter for inclusion. This is a way to get the word out of what the fire companies do and the resources they need without incurring their own mailing costs.
I think those two can be combined.
Yeah,
They could be combined.
Yeah, you absolutely can. We do have a fire section available on our website. I'd have to check with our IT folks that if we could link websites. If somebody clicked on Newcastle County Public Safety website, that they could go to the respective fire company website, and we can find that out. That could be an easy fix for some of this.
The one thing that doesn't mention though is social media.
Mhm.
That's gonna
Yeah,
go out more
that's
than
why on
newsletter.
websites.
Maybe you guys create like an FAQ or something like that, or fast facts or something.
Well, we can.
I mean, between all the council members, we all have our own newsletter, with thousands of people on it. We could shoot it out too.
We can, but we've got to try to make sure we're sending out a consistent message.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, I'll leave that to you guys, what you
that
want to
it's,
do.
that it's under a particular template as to what we want to accomplish with it. So everybody's sending the same thing. Listen, we have real challenges in public information. A lot of the reason people don't know what we do is because, number one, the News Journal is usually 3 days behind on local news. And it's just the way they're set up now. They don't necessarily pay as much attention to big incidents. And I get it. Part of that is because we're so heavily populated now, but it used to be any homicide would get half a page above the fold, and another page inside. And now sometimes they're just, little, unless it's something unusual. Big fires used to get a lot of attention. When firemen got hurt would get a lot of attention. It's just not that way anymore. And a lot of people get it from their own social media. And more is on other news sites than necessarily Delaware Online, but we don't do a good enough job getting it out there. Okay? If the News Journal, and I'm not criticizing them right now, but if they did just a short story this week on fire activity in this county in the last 3 weeks, there have been multiple significant fires. There have been 2 maydays of firefighters. There have been 4 where firefighters were injured. There have been a few where civilians were injured. And we really haven't gotten much of that out there at all unless you go on individual websites.
We can also, if there's blurbs you want, we get out on our newsletters that go out too from the county government. Moving into the next one, reconsider investment strategy to create a high yield. While CDs typically pay higher interest than savings accounts, they have been struggling to keep pace with the money market accounts. Sweep accounts are something that many banks offer their bigger clients. They're used frequently by governmental entities that consistently maintain million-dollar balances. Sweep accounts are bank accounts that automatically transfer amounts that exceed, fall short of the certain levels into a higher interest earning investment option at the close of each business day. Commonly, they are money market funds, and the intention is to minimize idle cash drag. Oftentimes, there are fees associated with sweep accounts that may detract from the benefit. However, with powerful negotiation skills, strong relationships, and the 501c3 status, fire companies will be able to get most of these fees waived with their banks. Facets did not gather banking information on how many different banks there are out there between the fire companies. I'm sure there's several. So I don't know where this one would fit in a program.
Well, the last one is the exact same thing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that too.
Yeah, they could be. So, consider it's, again, 21 corporations have 21 different banking strategies.
We can include it as a recommendation, after we talk about it. These are definitely low priority in terms relative to the others.
Yes, agree. Pursue initiating or expanding a live-in volunteer student program. I think that's been accomplished. Does anybody that doesn't have any type of program like that, do you know? Does anybody not have a live-in or?
We could do,
Bulk areas?
we could check and find out.
I mean, we could, if we can accomplish that by just getting the list of who is, who
Yeah.
isn't. Evaluate activity, event hall operations if the fire company has one, to ensure they're breaking even or not making a profit. Yeah, sorry.
Well, I'll be honest with you, this is just my opinion. It's hard for me to believe that very many of our halls are making a profit anymore. But once again, unless they are losing money, which would impact what funding we get is used for. I don't know that as long as they're breaking even, the question is, at this point, how do we find out? I mean,
I'm sure this came up in the conversation that they had with each company,
yeah,
so.
but you and I are familiar with a company that I don't believe, and I have no evidence, but I'm just curious as to how it's possible that there's a profit.
True. The one thing that was just a little bit more for people to understand, these halls are not just social halls. They're used for evacuations by our OEM folks. They're also used as gathering points or reporting points for parents from schools. I know the hall of my fire company is for 2 schools. So there are other functions besides that being used for social events. Hopefully none of those things are needed, but they are. But obviously we're gonna have to make some kind of recommendation on it. And as discussed earlier, the last bullet item kind of links with the third one on that page. So since we don't have any mediums, right? Am I right, Stan? Friday. So we need to rank the lowest. Anybody have any pleasure on these?
I would just,
Motion to adopt the recommendations.
We have to rank the lowest. Unless I think we already did.
We already did.
You already did? You're okay with that? Everybody okay with that?
just go in line. I don't, just go in line. I don't think they're all about the same priority.
Okay, perfect. Anybody online have any comments, from the committee members online about the low priority?
No.
Thank you.
He said anybody.
Well, yeah, the committee members, yeah. All right, we'll move on to identification of recommendations requiring additional research. I think we already covered that, right?
Yeah. We got that.
Okay, discuss topics for the next meeting. Should we be discussing,
Number one,
yeah. And how to get formulate an RFP, or at least start the groundwork for that? Anything else for the next meeting anybody can think of? That may take all 90 minutes or more.
And as Kevin's question, do we need to make a motion to accept our priorities?
I think we should. I'll make it. Is there a
Accept
second?
the priorities that was agreed upon by the committee.
Second by Danny Burris. Questions on the motion to accept the prioritization list we just came up with? Anybody on the committee online?
Is Stephanie, is it crystal clear where the priorities
Yeah.
lie? Because there were a lot that were like,
We
okay,
numbered them?
now this is number
She
two.
said she has it.
Okay.
Yeah, if it's okay with everybody, well, under the discussion of the motion, Stephanie can send out a draft of the prioritizations. Even though we're gonna vote on it now, just in case there needs to be any adjustments at the next meeting. Okay? Any questions from committee members online about the motion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
None, public comment? Since we don't have any public comment in the chambers right now. Anyone online on virtual or public comment? Ask all public comment. Discuss and establish meeting date. We have the next date this month. Do we want to go into March? You're waiting for the
Yeah, we already-
Second,
we're-
fourth Wednesday.
Then we can cross that off. It's already established. Very good. Anything else for the good of the committee?
Kenny's got to hurry up. He's got to get to Little Vinny's.
Not for another hour and a half. But I do have to take care of something. Anything else from anybody? Motion to adjourn.
Second.
So move. Second, all in favor?
Now,
I don't say the same thing. I don't know what that means.
I don't either.